everyone, it's Marchettino and what you're looking at is the new Ferrari Purosangue. Finally, I got to see it in the flesh and today we're gonna talk about it, we're gonna make an analysis and mostly you will hear what kind of amazing engine lies under the hood of the prototype I got to film. So let's start by saying, blasphemy or huge success? I think the Ferrari Purosangue will be both. But as you know, pumped up SUVs is not something new. We've started to see them in the 90s, first with the Jeep Grand Cherokee, then with the BMW X5, Mercedes ML, Hummer H1, I can go on, there's lots of cars to mention. But if there's a thing that most car makers have realized is that if you wanna grow, increase the sales and of course the income, you have to have at least one SUV in the lineup. And honestly, I would have never expected to see an SUV from car makers like Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Aston Martin, Maserati. But there's one company that seems like they will never go for this trend, McLaren. They said they're not interested in SUVs that much, so I hope they will keep the promise. But talking about numbers, SUVs are very important today. Let's talk about Ferrari's biggest rival, Lamborghini. The Urus is very important because if you think about it, in 2020 the company has delivered 7,430 cars. Well, 4,391 of them were Urus. Just this model alone makes the 60% of the global sales of this brand. This is incredible. But still, Lamborghini is not new to this kind of cars. Who doesn't love the Rambo Lambo, the LM002? An off-road with a V12 coming from the Lamborghini Countach and a mega 290 liters fuel tank. Back in the days, they sold 301 of these. Compared to today's numbers, it's very low, but in that time it was quite a good success. And talking about Ferrari, time really changes everything, because if you think about it, during the Montezemolo era, when he was the chairman of Ferrari, he wanted to stop the annual production to about 7,000 units in order to keep the value and the exclusivity of the brand. In 2013, he once said, "We're not interested to make an SUV nor an electric car." Okay! So Purosangue is coming very shortly and they have announced also that a 100% electric Ferrari is coming around 2025. And if you take a look at Ferrari's current lineup, they sell so many cars. Actually, they have more cars than Alfa Romeo, Abarth and Lancia combined all together. And in terms of production numbers, 2019 was Ferrari's best year ever, with 10,131 cars delivered. In 2020, they delivered 9,119 cars, slightly less because of the pandemic, but I think that this year they will be above 10,000 cars once again, and next year with Purosangue, I think Ferrari's production will explode to at least 14,000 cars per year, which basically is twice what Montezemolo wanted to limit. I'm a big fan of a Ferrari, especially the old ones, the analog ones, so I'm not very okay about the arrival of an SUV, but when I got to see and hear the prototype, I was quite excited, just here. Yeah guys, what you hear is a V12 powered Ferrari Purosangue. So just to make a comparison, just hear these clips of a Ferrari Monza SP2 and A12 Superfast flyby. You can hear that the intake and engine noise are literally the same, so I'm quite sure that prototype had a 6.5 liter natural aspirated V12 under development. And I think that for the Purosangue, Ferrari will offer multiple solutions in terms of engine. So the first one will be a V12. If we think about it, with the new Icona SP3, they have pushed the net respirated V12 up to 840 horsepower and 697 Newton meters of torque. Otherwise, they could go for the 3.9-liter twin-turbo V8 of the F80 Tributo with about 720 horsepower and 770 Newton meters of torque. Otherwise, I think they will offer also an hybrid solution. It could be the powertrain of the new 296 GTB, 3-liter twin-turbo V6 with also an electric engine. Altogether, they develop 830 horsepower and 740 Newton meters of torque. Otherwise, also the hybrid variant of the SF90 will be a good idea. We're talking about a 4-liter V8 twin-turbo with 3 electric engines. All combined, they deliver 1000 horsepower and 960 Newton meters of torque. But I think that this kind of power for an SUV, I think it's way too much. We're talking about a big power to deliver, so I think that this car, being an SUV, I think it will be all-wheel drive. So more likely, considering that Ferrari has developed some know-how with the FF and GTC4 Lusso, I think we're gonna see a powertrain derived from the GTC4, but of course adapted for this brand new Ferrari. The gearbox, I'm quite sure it will be the new 8-speed double clutch that we've seen it first on the SF90. And prior saying, the car you have seen is a Maserati Levante, it isn't. Most car makers do this kind of Frankenstein creations. What you're looking at might look like a Maserati Levante, but underneath we find all the mechanical components of a Ferrari. They do this in order to develop the car, but also not to reveal what is the real design of it. So basically, with this car, I didn't see any interesting details in terms of design. But when the car drove past next to me, I got to see for a moment the interior. Inside, you can see a very big digital display in front of the driver. I love the pedals too, they're very big and easy to grab. In the middle, we find another display, but I don't know if that's the infotainment or a computer of the test driver in order to keep an eye on all the parameters of the car. And then, in the passenger seat, you can see another tiny display. We already see that in other cars of the range. That's an option that allows to the passenger to play with the infotainment, the aircon, to see the live speed and stuff like that. A couple of days ago, we have seen new pictures of the Ferrari Purosangue under development, but these ones are very interesting because we see the Ferrari Purosangue under development with its final shape. Of course, this car has a massive camouflage for obvious reasons. If you look at it from the profile view, we can see pretty much how the car will look like. The design looks quite flowing and smooth. And look at the back. It seems like the Purosangue will have some kind of SUV coupe back. And in the front, with a big engine bay, we can see lots of air intakes covered. I don't know which kind of engines they will offer, but one thing is sure, the engine will need a lot of air in order to work properly, because this is a quite big, I think also heavy car to drive. But I think that Ferrari will be able to make an incredible job in terms of performance and driving pleasure. I've noticed also another interesting detail on this prototype. If you look at the back doors, just look on the left side. It seems like they are hiding the door handles in that part of the car. So maybe the Purosangue might feature doors that open backward like we see on Rolls-Royce models. It's been quite exciting to see in the flesh like a prototype. I've seen so many prototypes of Ferrari in the past. It's always exciting to see something that it's not yet on the market. I'm also very excited to see what this car will be about, the look, the performance, so I really cannot wait to have a go with it, even though I don't think that Ferrari should really make a car like this. I hope you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more. And as always, thanks for watching. Ciao!